to my pretend pastry kitchen. I'm Emma, and today I'll be showing you how to make these Peep-inspired raspberry lemonade flavored macarons. They have raspberry macaron shells and they're filled with a lemon buttercream. Delicious. They're perfect for Easter or spring picnics. Let me show you how to make them. To start the macarons, we're going to sift together 2/3 cup of almond flour and 1 cup of powdered sugar, but I've noticed that almond flour tends to hold a little bit of moisture, so I have an easier time doing half of each ingredient and then repeating. Once your ingredients are all sifted, you can set this bowl aside for now. So now we're going to separate 2 egg whites into a medium mixing bowl. You will not need the yolks for this recipe, but set them aside, make yourself a pastry cream, some cream puffs or eclairs, but we won't be needing them here. Even if your mixing bowl is dry, I would still suggest wiping it down with a dry paper towel to make sure that there's no contaminants that can destabilize our meringue because it's going to be super fragile. To separate the egg whites from the yolks, I'm going to crack the egg and then pass the yolk back and forth and let the egg whites drop into the bowl between the 2 halves of the shell. If the yolk breaks, start over. We don't want any yolk in the egg whites because then the meringue won't properly fluff up. Now we're going to need an electric hand mixer, and we are going to whip the egg whites into a meringue. To start, we're going to mix it on low for 30 seconds, and this will help stabilize the egg proteins before we start whipping it. Then we're going to kick the mixer up to high speed and whip this for about another 30 seconds until it's bubbly and foamy. Your egg white should look like this right now. At this point, we're going to start gradually adding in a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar while we're mixing on high speed. Once your sugar is all incorporated, we're going to whip this on high speed for about 3 minutes until you have stiff peaks. Should look something like this. They should look glossy, and then when you stick the beaters in, it should look like that. And they can stand somewhat straight up when you turn it upside down. Now we are going to add the dry ingredients that we sifted earlier into our meringue, but we have to be really gentle not to deflate the meringue because we just spent so much time whipping air into it. So I gradually add about 1/3 of the mixture at a time into here, and then we're going to fold. So folding is an under-over turn motion, and I will demonstrate that now. You want to mix until everything is well combined and there's no like flour pockets, but don't overmix because this batter is very fragile. It has a ton of air that we whipped into it and we don't want to deflate it. My macarons will be Peep inspired, so I'm going to color and flavor them. This is the point where we want to do that, but that step is optional, so if you're skipping it, your batter is ready to pipe. I am going to make all of my macaron shells raspberry flavored and the buttercream lemon flavored so that we have raspberry lemonade macarons. So I am going to add the flavoring and then split the batter into 2 dishes and make them 2 different colors. I'm going for pink and yellow because those are my 2 favorite pinks. You want to add only like 3 to 4 drops for the whole batch because extracts are super strong. Same with the dye, they're super strong, so be careful. So now I'm going to transfer the batter into piping bags. I don't actually use piping bags, I use Ziploc bags. So what you're going to do is you can either use just the bag or put a tip in it like I'm going to, because you can form almost perfect circles, but the seams make your circles a little bit more like ovals, so it's a little bit harder to get round shapes, but it works perfectly if you don't have a piping tip. Then you're going to fold that corner so when we pour the batter, it doesn't flood right into the bottom of a cup. And we're going to put this inside the cup with that corner folded, and then just open the top and flip it inside out like this. And then it's like someone's holding a bag open for you. And when you're done, you can just pull it out and then unfold this tip or snip the tip and start piping. So now I am going to separate this into 4 bags so that we can have opposite colored little tails. So just add a tiny bit of each color into one of the bags and then pour the rest into the other bag. That one will have a large piping tip, and the little tails are just going to be a tiny little snip. We're going to want a tiny little hole so we can make fine details with that. For piping, if you're going to use a Ziploc bag, I prefer the freezer quart size ones, because if it's not the freezer strength, I've had bags pop on me before, but these are super sturdy. So to pipe the bunnies, I'm going to make 1 large circle and then 1 small dot on top to be the head. And then I'm going to start on the outside and kind of taper off as I go in towards the head and make 2 little ears. So I kind of put a dot and drag it back to the head, and it creates that little teardrop shape. And just continue until you run out of batter. So don't worry if they don't come out perfect, they're still adorable and they're still going to taste delicious. Here is why you don't overmix your batter. You can see that my pink bunnies, they kind of spread out a little bit. They're not quite as sturdy and structured, but the yellow is perfect. So I just overmixed this a little bit when I was adding the food dye, so don't make that mistake. But here are our bunnies. Now we're going to tap the tray about 10 to 15 times on the countertop just to release air bubbles from the tops, so that we have nice, shiny, even tops to our macaron shells. And then we are going to let them sit for 30 minutes, and they form their little feet, which is the fluffy little bottom layer of the sandwich cookies. So we will tap these and then let them set aside, and during that time, preheat your oven to 300 degrees. Okay, so those will bake for about 13 to 15 minutes. Check them at 13. They should be a little bit golden brown, and the top should be matte instead of shiny like they were before. To start the buttercream, we're going to cream together 6 tablespoons of room temperature butter. It needs to be room temperature for us to have the perfect texture for our fluffy buttercream. That basically just means mix it until it gets fluffy and white, about like 2 minutes. So as you can see, the butter got a little bit lighter in color and it looks super fluffy. So at this point, we are going to sift in 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, half a cup at a time to make sure it's well incorporated and we don't make a giant mess. Lastly, we're going to add a couple drops of vanilla extract and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I freshly squeezed mine, so I double strained it just to make sure that there's no pulp in there, but you can just use pre-squeezed, pre-bottled lemon juice. That's perfectly fine. And that's going to give this the raspberry lemonade flavor. So our lemon buttercream will come from fresh lemon juice. Finally, we'll stir this until everything is well combined and then continue to whip it until the mixture is your desired fluffiness. Now I am going to pair up the cookies with similarly sized other cookies on this sheet. Now I will snip the tip off of my Ziploc bag and fill in between these cookies to turn them into little sandwiches. Here are your finished bunny macarons. Enjoy! Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more of my content. Comment down below what you want to bake with me next. I can't wait to bake with you again. Happy Easter!